All right, welcome back to the Daily Facts. This is part four of the Carter Page um, lawsuit. So let's get right into it. On October 7, 2016, DOJ attorney Stuart Evans asked the FBI whether Steele was affiliated with a political campaign. On October 10, 2016, FBI agent Stephen Soma provided an answer that was only partially responsive. On October 11th, Evans learned that Steele had been performing political opposition research and expressed concerns about Steele's reliability due to his political bias and its impact on information provided to the FBI. On October 12th, Peter Strzok and other FBI personnel briefed Comey and McCabe about Evans' concerns. The FBI brushed aside those concerns and pressed the DOJ to proceed with the warrant application. DOJ then held up the warrant application because of concerns that Steele's bias may need to be disclosed to the FISC. Ultimately, a footnote was added to the application, which stated that Source One, Steele, who now owns a foreign business financial intelligence firm, was approached by an identified U.S. person who indicated to Source One that a U.S. based law firm had hired the identified U.S. person to conduct research regarding Candidate One's ties to Russia. The identified U.S. person and Source One have a long standing business relationship. The identified U.S. person hired Source One to conduct this research. The identified U.S. person never advised Source One as to the motivation behind the research into Candidate One's ties to Russia. The FBI speculates that the identified U.S. person was likely looking for information that could be used to discredit Candidate One's campaign. This misleading footnote ignores the fact that Steele was being paid with Democratic National Committee funds, which its law firm, Perkins Coie, funneled to CHS Steele through the political opposition research firm, Fusion GPS. The FBI knew that fully and accurately disclosing the motivations behind Steele's critical allegations on which it was relying would undermine any finding of probable cause and would prevent it from obtaining a warrant. The first FISA warrant application was submitted to the FISC on October 21st, 2016. It asserted that, quote, the FBI has learned that Page met with at least two Russian officials during a trip to Russia in 2016, end quote, relying on CHS's Steele's allegations. But it did not fully disclose Steele's bias and motives, nor did it disclose the information provided by the CIA to the FBI, either that Dr. Page had been in operational contact for many years or the cautionary warning about politically motivated false reports alleging connections between Russian individuals and U.S. citizens. Neither the first FISA warrant application nor any of the subsequent renewal applications disclosed or referenced any role that the Democratic National Committee or any party campaign had in funding the efforts by Steele, even though those efforts were known to senior DOJ and FBI officials. The application for the first FISA warrant also falsely represented that the FBI has reviewed this verified application for accuracy in accordance with its April 5th, 2001 procedures, the Woods procedures, which include sending a copy of the draft to the appropriate field offices. There was insufficient evidence to support issuance of a warrant against Dr. Page when the application for the first FISA warrant was submitted to the FISC. The application for the first FISA warrant was false and misleading. If the application for the first FISA warrant had not been false and misleading, the warrant would not have been issued by the FISC. The second FISA warrant. On October 31st, 2016, an article appeared in Mother Jones titled, and I quote, "A veteran spy has given the FBI information alleging a Russian operation to cultivate Donald Trump," end quote. The subheadline asked, quote, "Has the Bureau investigated this material?" End quote. FBI agent Michael Gaeta, who was the assigned, in quotes, handler for CHS Steele, was convinced Steele was the source for the article and confronted him about it. Steele admitted he was behind the Mother Jones story. Agent Gaeta's reaction to CHS's Steele's behavior was surprise and disbelief. Gaeta thought that Steele's actions and attitude were not just crazy source related stuff, in quotes, the crazy source related stuff, but, quote, one of the craziest, end quote, he had seen in 2 decades of handling sources. On or about November 1st, 2016, Agent Gaeta advised Steele that he must cease collecting information for the FBI, and it was unlikely that the FBI would continue a relationship with him because of this serious violation of the CHS protocols. Agent Gaeta reported Steele's misbehavior to FBI supervisors, including William Priestap, and on November 17, 2016, the FBI officially closed Steele as a source for cause. In November 2016, Priestap and Peter Strzok went to London to assess Steele's credibility by gathering the opinions of persons who previously had professional contacts with Steele. They found some who described Steele as, quote, smart and a, quote, person of integrity, but several lamented Steele's, quote, poor judgment or, quote, lack of judgment, and his habit of, quote, pursuing people with political risk with no intel value, end quote. On November 21st, 2016, DOJ official Bruce Orr met with Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, Joe Pienka, and other FBI officials to discuss Steele's background and reliability as a source and to identify his source network. Orr advised them that Steele, quote, was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him becoming the U.S. president, end quote. He also said that Steele had been hired by a, quote, a lawyer who does opposition research, end quote, and the information about Trump and Russia was being relayed to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Thereafter, Orr communicated with the FBI on 3 separate occasions in a successful effort to provide information he received from former CHS Steele, as well as information received from Glenn Simpson on Fusion GPS, and also a thumb drive of opposition research created by Orr's wife, who was a Fusion GPS employee. In essence, Orr became a go-between by which the FBI maintained ongoing contact with former CHS Steele and continued to rely on his allegations, notwithstanding that Steele had been fired and supposedly terminated as a source of reliable information. Another back channel by which the FBI continued to gather new, quote, reporting, end quote, by Steele was David Corn, the Mother Jones reporter, who had written the article about Steele's accusations. Corn was a longtime friend of the FBI General Counsel, James Baker. Corn gave Steele memos to Baker, and then Baker passed them on to Priestap. An FBI liaison informed the Crossfire Hurricane team, a minimum agents Joe Pienka and Stephen Soma, in late November 2016, that Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Kovalek had met with Steele. She had taken notes of their meeting. The liaison could obtain information from Kovalek about the meeting, and according to Kovalek, the information from Steele's reporting about a Russian consulate being located in Miami was inaccurate. But the FBI liaison received no directives from the Crossfire Hurricane team to gather information from Kovalek regarding her contact with Steele. The FBI did not continue to receive information from Steele, even though he had been terminated as a CHS source for cause. In December 2016, the FBI learned that Steele's primary subsource was, in quotes, Igor Denchenko. end quote, who had been the subject of an investigation by the FBI in 2009 to 2010 as a, quote, national security threat, end quote, and possible Russian spy. In 2010, the FBI had initiated a request for FISA surveillance of Danchenko, but withdrew that request after Danchenko left the United States. The FBI was to consider reopening the investigation if Danchenko ever returned to the United States. In addition, in late December 2016, Mr. Orr told the FBI that he had met with Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS and that Simpson had assessed the Igor Danchenko was a Russian intelligence officer who was central in connecting Trump to Russia. The application for the second FISA warrant was submitted to the FISC on January 12, 2017. It asserted that its relationship with Steele had been, quote, suspended, not terminated because of his unauthorized disclosure of information to the press. Nonetheless, the FBI assessed that Steele's information was still reliable because previous information had been reported to the FBI, had been verified, and used in criminal proceedings. This was not true. The FBI had failed to include relevant information provided to the FBI in November and December 2016 to Steele's motivations and reliability, which undermined his credibility and the trustworthiness of the information he provided. Nor did the application disclose the evidence that Danchenko, the ultimate source of the allegations against Dr. Page, might well be a Russian intelligence officer. Notably, the application did not outline any foreign intelligence information that had been gathered during the first 3 months. Instead, the application contained the misleading, conclusory statement that the requested warrant, quote, would continue to produce foreign intelligence information. On information and belief that the initial 3 months of FISA's surveillance of Dr. Page had produced no foreign intelligence and revealed no evidence at all of Dr. Page acting as a foreign agent of Russia. There was insufficient evidence to support issuance of a warrant against Dr. Page when the application for the second FISA warrant was submitted to the FISC. The application for the second FISA warrant was false and misleading. If the application for the second FISA warrant had not been false and misleading, the warrant would not have been issued by the FISC. The third FISA warrant. The Department of Justice has conceded to the FISC that there was insufficient evidence to support a finding of probable cause when it sought the third FISA warrant. The FBI interviewed Igor Danchenko over the course of 3 days, from January 24th to 26, 2017. Danchenko gave the FBI information that contradicted or undermined the allegations about Dr. Page that Steele attributed to him. He said Steele's reporting was, quote, misstated or exaggerated, end quote, and some of Danchenko's information was based on, quote, rumor and speculation, end quote. Danchenko, quote, never expected Steele to put Danchenko's statements in reports or present them as facts, end quote. Danchenko, quote, made it clear to Steele that she had no proof to support the statements from his sub-sources and that, quote, it was just talk, end quote. Danchenko's information was, quote, word of mouth and hearsay, end quote. Conversations that he had with friends over beers. Statements made in jest. These inconsistencies were not disclosed to the FISC in the application for the third FISA warrant. Rather, the application stated that Danchenko had been interviewed and found to be, quote, truthful and cooperative, end quote. This was deliberately misleading because it invoked Danchenko's apparent credibility to buttress and the allegations attributed to him in the 2 previous applications, when in fact the information he provided undercut those allegations. In March 2017, 2 agents conducted an ambush interview of Dr. Page, who spoke freely with them without the benefit of counsel. These two agents subsequently interviewed Dr. Page 4 additional times during March 2017. These interviews lasted a total of approximately 10 hours. Dr. Page was candid and cooperative with the agents, and his answers undermined any contention that he was acting as an agent of a foreign power. An attorney advising Dr. Page then spoke to FBI and now defendant Kevin Kleinsmith about the FBI's interest in Dr. Page. Kleinsmith was, unbeknownst to Dr. Page, assigned to provide support to FBI personnel working on Crossfire Hurricane. Okay, we're going to end there and we'll pick up again very soon. Thank you for stopping by the Daily Facts. Do like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. We'll talk again soon. Bye.